"Nothing's touching Glock." That's what he said, loud, like it was settled law. We were standing around the bench in Conroe, brass on the ground, coffee going cold, and I looked down the line and something felt off. The holsters didn't look the same. The rental wall didn't either. Even the instructors weren't carrying what they used to. There wasn't some big announcement, no launch day circus. Dealers scrambled to keep certain models in stock. Instructors changed what they carried, and guys on the line quietly swapped what sat in their holsters. Quiet betrayals. I argued against two of these, called one overhyped, laughed at another, swore I'd never carry it, then I shot them and watched other guys switch and not switch back. So this isn't a list of what's good. It's about the guns that actually broke loyalty. And the one at number 1, that's the gun that knocked my old carry out of the holster and never gave it back. For years, the industry treated DA/SA like a flip phone. Useful once, not anymore. Striker guns won, lighter trigger, same pull every time, easier to sell. That was the story. I believed it. The PX4 Compact sat in that weird category. Polymer Beretta, rotating barrel, chunky slide, heavy first pull. Every striker guy I know had already written it off. I had too. Then one Saturday, at the range outside Conroe, we ran it side by side with a Glock 19. No drama. Just drills. 10 yards 15. Push it back. The Glock did what Glocks do. Consistent. Familiar. Easy. The PX4 printed tighter. Not by luck. Not once. Over and over. And the recoil impulse felt different. Not softer, just flatter. That rotating barrel everyone calls a gimmick? It wasn't flipping the way I expected. Nobody made a big speech, but the Glock guy didn't laugh anymore. That's what shocked me. Not that the PX4 was good, that it shouldn't have been forgotten in the first place. And if that messed with the striker loyalty a little, the next gun made people question why they were carrying bigger pistols at all. Last month in Houston, I was leaning on the glass at a gun counter when a guy in front of me said he didn't see the point of the X Macro. If I'm going small, I'll go small. If I'm going serious, I'll carry a compact. He said it like it was settled math. The clerk didn't debate him. He just cleared the pistol and handed it over. A few feet down, another customer adjusted his belt, and you could see the same gun riding there, like it had been part of his routine for years. No fanfare, no explaining, just there. What stood out wasn't hype. It was how ordinary it looked on people who didn't chase trends. Working guys. Simple holsters. No performance drama. When the talk shifted to capacity and controllability, the old micro versus compact argument started sounding outdated. Later that night, I opened my safe and noticed the same thing staring back at me. The gap between small and serious had narrowed more than I wanted to admit. Full-size pistols weren't gone, but they weren't automatic anymore. The X Macro didn't just sell well, it quietly changed what people considered enough. And the next one, that's the one people made fun of before they started buying it. I brought the GX4 Carry on purpose because I didn't trust it. Outdoor range, north of Houston. Long afternoon, cheap bulk ammo. No cleaning, no favors. If the old Taurus reputation was going to show up, this was where it should have. I ran it like I run everything else. Draws from concealment. Controlled pairs. A few faster strings once it heated up. I didn't baby the grip. I didn't slow down for it. If it was going to choke, I wanted it exposed. It didn't. Round count climbed. Slide got hot. Dust stuck to the frame. Still cycling. No weak ejection. No stubborn feed. No drama. The trigger wasn't special. The finish wasn't premium. It didn't suddenly feel like a $700 pistol, but it refused to fail. And that's where the shock started. Because once a budget gun stops being embarrassing, the conversation changes. Guys stop whispering about it. First-time buyers stop apologizing for buying it. Shops stop steering everyone up to something more expensive out of fear. When a $300 pistol proves it can survive a real range day without becoming a punchline, it doesn't just protect its owner, it pressures the entire price ladder above it. And that made more people uncomfortable than any jam ever could. Last year, outside Austin, I stopped at a small shop I check in on every now and then. They had a used VP9 in the case. Clean. Fair price. I remember thinking I'd circle back for it. 2 days later, it was gone. That didn't mean much by itself. Guns move. But a week after that, different shop. Same thing. Used. VP9 comes in. Doesn't sit long. Gone before the weekend. I started paying attention. Used Glocks rotate. Used SIGs hang for a bit, depending on the model. But the VP9s, they don't collect dust. They disappear. So I asked the guy behind the counter about it. He shrugged. They don't last. That stuck with me. The used shelf tells the truth faster than any marketing campaign. If people regret a gun, it piles up. If they're dumping it, you see it. The VP9 wasn't stacking up. Mags are still pricey. It's not the cheapest option. And it never had the loudest fan base. But owners weren't giving them back. And the next one didn't disappear from shelves. And it forced an entire category to evolve. Earlier this year, outside Austin, after a Monday session, a guy leaned against his truck with a Shadow 2 Carry, riding inside the waistband, like it had always been there. Shirt lifted, sun hitting the slide, and nobody treated it like a stunt. A few years back, that setup would have turned into a debate. Wait, price, practicality, all the usual talking points. This time, the conversation drifted to ammo and work schedules. I asked to run it. The gun settled into the hand heavier than polymer, but not awkward. The slide tracked straight back. The trigger broke clean and predictable. It didn't feel like a compromise between carry and competition. It felt like someone stopped caring about that line. Later, I thought about what was missing. Not performance, not reliability. The hesitation. A metal gun on a daily belt used to look excessive. Now it looked deliberate. And once something expensive starts looking deliberate instead of indulgent, the rest of the shelf shifts. Whether anyone announces it or not, you can still choose lighter. You can still choose cheaper. But a Shadow 2 Carry on a regular belt doesn't look out of place anymore. That alone tells you the market moved. Most duty contenders follow the same script. Loud launch, spec sheets everywhere. Short burst of excitement. Then silence. Once contracts don't move. The PDP Full-Size didn't follow that arc. It kept showing up in conversations where it didn't belong. Not influencer chatter, not range talk, procurement language, optic plates, trigger consistency, back orders that weren't tapering off the way new models usually do. At first, it sounded like normal distributor noise. Then, halfway through a conversation at a shop near Dallas, someone mentioned something quietly. A department had run it through evaluation. No announcement, no public trial summary. It didn't take the contract. But it got deeper into testing than most challengers ever reach. Nobody framed it as a headline. What followed said enough. Extra visits from competitors. More emphasis on optics integration. Subtle pressure in conversations that used to feel settled. The PDP never needed to win the contract to make an impact. Getting invited into the room was enough. And the next pistol on this list didn't just get invited into the room, it forced people to argue about an entire caliber all over again. There was a stretch of time when the 5.7 felt more like a controversy than a firearm. News clips looped phrases about armor and penetration. Forums exploded. Guys argued about legality without ever handling one. It was easier to repeat headlines than to, shoot it. Expensive, strange, impractical. That reputation stuck hard. I used to treat it like a novelty piece, something interesting to look at, not something serious. Now the line sounds different. The crack is sharper, lighter. The gun barely lifts. Targets at distances people usually reserve for carbines don't feel out of reach. The capacity looks absurd until you run drills and realize you aren't fighting recoil the way you expected. The real shift shows up off the firing line. Walk into a shop, and 5.7 isn't a lonely FN box anymore. Multiple brands sit beside it. Ammo options multiply. What started as one company's oddball project now occupies real shelf space. The caliber didn't beg for acceptance. It stayed, and the industry followed. The 5.7 didn't win an argument. It made the argument irrelevant, and the compact pistol world absorbed that energy, whether it wanted to or not. When the Hellcat first showed up, I didn't take it seriously. The name felt loud. The marketing felt louder. Another smallest, highest capacity Headline, trying to win on math instead of manners. I handled one and put it back. Later, I ran it against 2 micro pistols I trusted more. Short strings, lateral movement, transition work. The Hellcat stayed flatter than it had any right to. The trigger wasn't magical, but it broke clean and reset fast enough to keep rhythm. The sights tracked. The gun returned to 0 without drama. I finished a drill feeling annoyed instead of impressed, because it kept landing where I wanted. Over the next few months, I started seeing it on belts I respect. Not influencers, not brand diehards. Solid shooters who usually wait a year before trusting anything new. Capacity stopped being a brag point and started being normal. Other companies quietly stretched their own frames to answer it. The Hellcat didn't beg for approval. It forced comparison, and the next 2 pistols on this list didn't chase capacity or hype at all. One quietly took background people thought was lost. The other came out of nowhere and made a lot of comfortable opinions look lazy. Last month I was on the range running the M&P 2.0 Compact through the same drills I'd been using to test everything else on this list, and I brought it out almost as a control piece. I didn't expect drama from it. I expected stability. I started with another pistol that looked sharper and felt more modern, but halfway through the session, I was already adjusting grip pressure, chasing the dot, and blaming the trigger instead of my timing. When I switched to the M&P 2.0 Compact, the change was immediate. Recoil tracked straight back, the sights settled predictably, and my splits tightened without effort. I stopped negotiating with the gun and focused on the drill. By the end of the day, the flashy pistol was back in the bag, and the Compact was finishing the work. That alone isn't industry shocking. What is shocking is how often this same story repeats. Instructors keep one nearby. Rental counters rely on it. Departments test it quietly and keep it in rotation. It becomes the standard others are compared against. When a pistol stops being the exciting choice and becomes the default correction tool, the market shifts around it. And the one sitting at number 1 forced an even harder reset. Earlier this week, I was on the phone with a distributor about something else entirely. A safer bet. A name everyone recognizes. We were talking allocation, back orders, the usual rotation of models that moved predictably. Then the Masada Slim came up. Not in a sales pitch way, not pushed. Just mentioned while we were discussing reorder cycles. I asked how it was doing out of curiosity. The answer wasn't flashy. It was steady. Reorders weren't spiking and collapsing like a hype gun. They were consistent. Regions that usually stick to bigger brands were asking for more. Dealers who started with a small batch were coming back sooner than expected. That part sat with me. Distributors don't adjust inventory planning for internet excitement. They adjust when movement holds, when something leaves shelves quietly and keeps leaving. The Masada Slim wasn't dominating headlines. It wasn't everywhere on social feeds. But allocation numbers were shifting. Forecasts were being revised. Shelf space was being reconsidered. I hadn't placed it at the top of this list when the year started. If your favorite didn't show up here, that doesn't make it a bad gun. It just means the ground shifted under it. This wasn't a spec sheet countdown. It was about what really ended up on belts, in duty holsters, in range bags, once the arguing died down. Some of these still bug me because I didn't want to admit I was wrong about a few of them, especially the one at the top. But loyalty in this world only feels permanent until the right gun makes you honest. By the time you're watching this, that shift already happened. Nobody asked permission. It just showed up in what people trusted enough to carry every day. So the only thing that matters now is this. Are you carrying what you actually trust or what you've just gotten used to? I'm Steve. Choose carefully.